Tracing the Platonic dialogues chronologically reveals a philosophical system in constant, often contradictory revision, a sharp split from the unified body of work we often imagine. These texts were forged in the wake of the Peloponnesian War, a decade of instability that concluded with the trial and state-mandated execution of Socrates. Because Socrates never wrote down his own philosophy, we are forced to rely on the accounts of his student, Plato. This creates the Socratic problem, determining where the historical figure ends and Plato's literary invention begins. Modern researchers address this through stylometry. By using computer algorithms to analyze Greek diction, sentence rhythm, and word frequency, linguists can objectively sequence when each text was produced. This data funnel categorizes Plato's 30-plus dialogues into 3 eras: early, middle, and late. This chronological sorting identifies the early dialogues as the most reliable record of the historical Socrates, before Plato began using the character as a mouthpiece for his own theories. In those early dialogues, Socrates operates through the elenchus. This is a refutative method of question and answer used to dismantle an opponent's claim to wisdom, until only their ignorance remains. This method is built on Socratic intellectualism, the psychological claim that every human being desires only what they believe to be good for them. Logically, this means all wrongdoing is a byproduct of ignorance. A person only commits an evil act because they have incorrectly calculated it as a benefit to themselves. Under this model, akrasia, knowing an action is wrong yet doing it anyway, is considered a psychological impossibility. The elenchus functions as a tool for demolition. It reveals what is false but provides no positive structure for what is true. Socratic intellectualism struggled to account for deliberate human irrationality, forcing Plato to move past his mentor's baseline and architect a more complex reality. In his middle period, Plato sought to establish absolute truth within a physical world defined by constant decay. He was hemmed in by the doctrine of Heraclitus, who argued that the sensible world is in a state of ceaseless flux, a river you can never step into twice because the water is always changing. Simultaneously, the philosopher Parmenides insisted that for knowledge to be possible, the object of that knowledge must be stable, unified, and unchanging. Plato synthesized these conflicting physics into the theory of forms, a dualistic universe that splits reality into a changing sensible world and an unchanging intellectual realm. Consider these hand-drawn lines. In the physical world, they are flawed and subject to decay, yet we possess the concept of equality itself, a perfect form in a higher realm. Physical objects only possess traits like equality because they approximate these higher forms. By engineering this two-tiered reality, Plato provided a foundation for infallible knowledge while acknowledging the messy reality of the physical world. This dualistic universe created an epistemological problem. If the perfect forms exist in a realm beyond our senses, how do humans actually know them? Plato's solution drew heavily from Pythagorean mathematics and the study of the immortal soul. He proposed the doctrine of recollection, suggesting that the soul interacted with the forms before birth. Learning, then, is the act of recovering these buried pre-birth memories. In the Meno, Socrates guides an uneducated boy through a complex geometric proof. By asking only the right sequence of questions, he demonstrates that the boy already possesses the structural knowledge of the universe. This redefines education. It is the awakening of the soul's prior contact with the forms, rather than the acquisition of new data. Because the universe was now dualistic, Plato had to rewrite human psychology to match, abandoning Socratic intellectualism for the more sophisticated model found in the Republic. He introduced the tripartite soul, which maps the internal friction between our intellectual goals and our physical urges. In this architecture, the soul consists of 3 parts: the rational part that seeks truth, the spirited part that seeks honor, and the appetitive part that seeks physical pleasure. When the lower drives overpower reason, it causes a structural failure. This model accounts for akrasia, moral weakness. It acknowledges that humans can know the right path, yet fail to follow it because their internal governance has collapsed. Psychology was no longer a matter of simple ignorance. It became a lifelong struggle to keep the rational part of the soul in control of its lower neighbors. In his late dialogues, Plato took a rare intellectual step, turning his own critical methods against the theory of forms.
In the Parmenides, he subjects his life's work to a logical stress test called the third man argument. The argument starts with a premise. If an individual object and its form share a common property, there must be a higher category that unites them. If the physical man and the form of man are both male, the theory's own logic requires a new form, man too, to explain that shared maleness. This triggers a catastrophic infinite regress. To explain the shared property between man 2 and the others, you need man 3, then man 4, looping forever upward and breaking the theory's explanatory power. By proving that participation led to a fatal logical loop, Plato prioritized the integrity of the truth over his own established legacy. After this self-critique, Plato's late period shifted from Socratic questioning to a rigorous system of collection and division to map the relationships between abstract ideas. His political thought also shifted significantly, moving away from the utopian ideal rulers described in his middle years. This pragmatism was reinforced by his later trips to Sicily, where his attempts to guide the local tyrant failed and left the region in chaos. His massive final work, The Laws, focuses on rigid, empirical legal codes designed to manage the behavior of flawed, real-world citizens. Plato's legacy is a system built, stressed until it failed, and then reassembled to handle more complex data. He did not just provide answers, he engineered the self-correcting operating system